From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Melinda Akilami.
Hello and welcome. People's Democratic Party flags off its governorship campaign ahead of the September 19th poll in Edo State as its flag bearer, Governor Godwin Obaseki, promises to take governance to a new level in the state. Gridlock builds on day one of the third Mainland Bridge partial closure. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu appeals to motorists and other road users for patience. President Buhari challenges Nigerians in diaspora to be active in his administration's post-COVID-19 economic recovery and not abandon the country. And Spain takes new measures to curb the spike in coronavirus cases amid fears of widespread second wave of the virus. Plus, business and sports.
On business news tonight, federal government rejects proposed increase in license fee for courier services by the Nigerian Postal Service.
Tonight, Barcelona legend Xavi Hernandez tests positive for COVID-19.
Politics is heating up in Edo State, where the re-election campaign of Governor Godwin Obaseki has been flagged off at the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium in Benin City, the state capital, with prominent PDP members as well as governors in attendance. The national chairman of the party, Mr. Uche Secondus, described the upcoming election as a test case for the president, saying it will show whether President Muhammadu Buhari is truly committed to conducting credible elections in the country. For Governor Godwin Obaseki, his re-election will signal a new era in governance in Edo State.
It's a festive occasion of sort for the PDP faithful in Edo State as they sing and dance to various musical tunes in defiance of the rain. Dignitaries at the event are also not left out. The PDP is flagging off its campaign for the re-election bid of Governor Godwin Obaseki and his deputy, Philip Shaibu.
Make you carry your ticket, go.
The head of the campaign team is among the first to address the gathering. Governor Nyesom Wike takes a swipe at the opposition.
I want to tell the people of Edo State, nobody should be afraid. Nobody should be what? Afraid. Nobody can rig this election. No one man can decide what will happen in Edo State. Today is the end of so-called Godfatherism.
Other speakers also rally support for Mr. Obaseki and his running mate.
The people of Edo State are clearly behind you. Protect your vote. Vote must count.
Don't be afraid of the guns. At a point, they even came with armored personnel carriers. So my small word, they will do that here.
For the national chairman of the party, Uche Secondus, the Edo governorship poll should be a model for free and fair election in Nigeria.
All Nigerians are focused on the Edo election come September 19th. And so, Mr. President, we appeal to you to do the needful and give Nigeria justice and equity and fair play.
The final speech is from the man at the center of the program, Governor Godwin Obaseki. This is after receiving the PDP flag.
And I don't pay my rent to God, if you want for my hand for God, I say anything else,
Mr. Obaseki says if given the opportunity, the next 4 years in office will see more economic development in the state.
So the mega team which we have adopted will focus on how to improve governance. How do we use government to support our people? How do we use government to create an enabling business environment so that you can do your business unharassed by any set of people, particularly thugs? How can we use government to transform your lives? The government belongs to you, not to a few people.
As the people depart the venue, the PDP believes that it has presented a good candidate and that victory is certain come September the 19th in the Edo governorship election.
Meanwhile, violence broke out outside the Oba's Palace in Benin City today after supporters of the People's Democratic Party PDP and the All Progressives Congress APC clashed. The incident took place immediately after the state governor, Godwin Obaseki, and his guests left the palace following his visit to the monarch.
The Edo State governor and his guests make their way out after visiting the palace of the Oba of Benin to seek his royal blessings as the governor launches his campaigns for another tenure in office. All seemed to be going on well before trouble broke out.
There is no quarrel, maybe.
Things thereafter spiraled out of control. With calm and normalcy restored, there are visible signs of injuries inflicted on some people. Fresh from his visit to the Oba and straight to the venue of his campaign event, Governor Obaseki comments on the incident.
We understand that the opposition party has now resorted to violence. Please, 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 we do not want bloodshed. A billionaire, one of their billionaire people hired a lot of thugs today around the Oba's Palace. And I hear they are busy destroying cars with PDP flags. Do not retaliate. God will retaliate for us.
As the date for the election beckons, today's incident renews the clarion call to political stakeholders to discourage their supporters from treading the path of violence.
From politics to infrastructure, patience. That's what the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, is asking from residents and motorists behind the third Mainland Bridge as repair commences on worn-out sections of the bridge. This appeal comes while the governor joined traffic managers to monitor vehicular movement on the axis of the first day into the closure. Motorists are already experiencing delay in travel time caused by the gridlock on the only lane open for motorists and along alternative routes. We'll have that report later, but let's look at security matters now. Air missions being conducted by the air component of Operation Hadarindaji seems to be yielding more results with the destruction of a new camp belonging to an armed gang in Damboru Forest, Zamfara State. The military confirmed this in a statement explaining that the airstrike, which also resulted in the killing of several armed bandits, was executed on Thursday after intelligence reports and surveillance missions established that members of the gang had moved to a new area by a rocky high ground within the forest. According to the coordinator, Defense Media Operations, the air component dispatched an enhanced force package of fighter jets and helicopter gunships to attack the location, taking out some of the bandits. In Kaduna State, at least 9 people are said to have been killed in last night's attack by gunmen in Fatsuam in Jema local government area and Amaraban Kagoro in Kara local government area. An indigene who confirmed this incident to Channels Television told us that the gunmen stormed a Zigpack village in the night, started shooting sporadically, and thereafter proceeded to neighboring communities and also carried similar attacks and burnt houses. Meanwhile, the Kaduna State Governor, Nasir El-Rufai, has imposed a 24-hour curfew on Jema and Kaura local government area due to the rising insecurity in the two councils. A similar curfew was imposed last month on Zango, Ketaf, and Kara local government area as a result of constant communal clashes. The police command in the state is yet to confirm the number of casualties from this latest attack. Meanwhile, aid workers and families of some of their slain colleagues in Borno State are expressing worry over repeated attacks targeting them while rendering humanitarian services. This is as a result of the recent execution of 5 aid workers kidnapped by suspected Boko Haram members in Borno State. The humanitarian community says it's deeply worried about the increasing danger and restrictive operating space in crisis-prone areas.
Anguish and distress expressed in tears. No words better explain the state of mind of this family. The reason for their grief is the brutal murder of Luka Philibus, one of the aid workers executed by Boko Haram terrorists in the northeast. They are being comforted by sympathizers in an IDP camp where they have lived for the past 6 years. To the world, he might have been a humanitarian worker, but to his family, Luka was much more than that.
What can I do? I am only waiting for my death. If not, what can I do about this? He was the only child that helps me, and now God has taken him.
Elsewhere, in Shehuri North, a similar gathering is mourning Abdul Rahman, another executed aid worker who was the staff of the State Emergency Management Agency. Again, tears flow freely as the family reflects on the brutal end of the life of a promising young man.
We thank God for everything. My son was a very good boy. I pray Allah admits him into Fidal. We thank God. That's all we can do. We are grateful and we accept His will.
For his colleagues, this isn't the best of times as they express outrage over recent happenings and the condition under which they now work. What the Borno State government says is working out ways of protecting them.
I think not everyone is not safe as far as humanitarian organization or rather working is concerned in the field, honestly. No one is safe because this is the message that they share, that they will continue attacking every humanitarian worker.
Their impact is well felt in this state, so it is very, very important for us to sit and strategize how best we secure our humanitarian workers. I've assured them that the Borno State government will work hand in hand with the security outfits here in the state to see how best we are going to protect them.
Between 2019 and now, 8 aid workers have been abducted and executed in Borno State, while the whereabouts of 2 others is still shrouded in mystery. The challenge is for the federal and Borno State government to work together to ensure the fight against insurgency is won.
In part 2, after the break, we have more on security in Borno State, and a Maiduguri-based security expert, Mr. Tunde Sotomi, will join us to discuss the issue. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. People's Democratic Party flags off its governorship campaign ahead of September 19th poll in Edo State as its flag bearer, Governor Godwin Obaseki, vows to take governance to a new level in the state. Gridlock builds on day 1 of the 3rd Mainland Bridge partial closure. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu appeals to motorists and other road users for patience. President Buhari challenges Nigerians in diaspora to be active in his administration's post-COVID economic recovery plan and not abandon the country. And Spain takes new measures to curb spike in coronavirus cases amid fears of widespread second wave, plus business and sport. Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from the respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Now let's discuss the security situation in Borno State, and we're being joined live from our Maiduguri studios by a security expert, Mr. Tunde Chotomi. A pleasure having you with us on the News at 10.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being on Channels Television tonight, and I'm really proud to be a Nigerian here to talk to my fellow Nigerians about the present situation of our dear state, Borno State.
Let's begin with this. How would you describe the situation in Maiduguri and its environment with regard to security at the moment?
At the moment, I will tell you it's not a good situation because Boko Haram did not respect the international humanitarian laws, which states that humanitarian workers going on social duties are not expected to be murdered openly like that. It's a shame, it's a disgrace that things like this could happen. But what do you expect? People from the bush will always act like one. But I think it's our time we do something about it. We have to take this by the horn now. We have to hold the bull by the horn. And this thing has to stop for good. I mean, it's not a good situation at all. And for the fact that they did that and they still promise they're still going to do more. Remember, just this week, humanitarian workers, people were stopped on Damboa Road, and they were asking the vehicle if they are humanitarian workers. Meaning, if anybody was part of them in that vehicle, it would have been something else by now.
Now, Mr. Sotomi, there are reports that the insurgents now stage attacks on roads, making it difficult for residents to travel on highways. How are the people able to move around and carry out their activities?
I'll be frank with you. This moment, the government should look for how to get choppers and helicopters to assist the ones on ground to take humanitarian workers to all the local government in Borno State. I will personally advise no humanitarian worker should be allowed to fly any of our roads. Damboa Road, Mangunu Road, Banki Road, all the roads in Maiduguri, because these guys are out there. And when I mean they're out there, I mean they're out there monitoring the movement of every humanitarian workers moving to assist in the local governments.
What about the people, besides the aid workers?
You can look. It's really a worse situation right now. Farmers are not going to the farm. Just this week, my laborers, I have a small farm, my laborers insisted they are not going to work because they are scared that anything could happen to them in the farm. So it's just, look, we're in the rainy season. Every farmer wants to go to the farm. People want to go do business in the local government. As I'm talking to you, people are living in fear. So something drastic has to be done now. If not, it's not going to be a good situation.
What can you say about how much control the terrorists have in Borno State?
I'll tell you, it's that simple. Remember what happened in Chad? The commanding officer of the Chad force had to come out when it was a bad situation. I think this is the approach we have to win. This time around, every hand have to be on deck. Forget about just the military. Every hand, when I mean the police, the civilian JTF, the private security. 2 guys out of the guys that were murdered, 5 of them were private securities, for heaven's sake. So this time around, every hand needs to be on deck. Everybody have to come and put in whatever we have to make sure we get rid of these guys permanently. Look, every country is bringing everybody. It's not just even the retired generals should come back. All the retired officers should all come together on a round table. Let's look for a way out. We've been battling this for 12 years, for heaven's sake. 12 years. This is not a girl born for 12 years ago will be planning towards going to the husband's house by now. We need to do something about it. We have to bring everybody back to the table and work things out to get these guys off completely. And that's the best we could do. And that's what we will do.
Security expert Mr. Tunde Chotomi, a pleasure sharing your thoughts with us on the News at 10.
Thank you.
Let's go back to the story we talked about earlier. It's not really the best of times for people flying towards the island now because of the partial closure of the third mainland bridge. But the governor is asking residents going towards that area to be patient.
It's almost 24 hours into the commencement of the partial closure of the third mainland bridge, and already the anticipated concern is glaring. Gridlock stretching from Adeniji-Adele to the epitemeter end of the bridge. This is also where one of the switch points is located. Slow and steady, the movement goes on. Most of the roads mapped out as alternative routes are also experiencing congestion at the time of this report. Being a weekend, motorists coming from Lagos Island to Oboroshoki did not anticipate that the peak period will experience a rush of vehicles.
The road is moving small, you understand? But we've been on the traffic for the past maybe 30 minutes now. One thing is this, I didn't mean they have finished that on Costain down to Ojota. It wouldn't have been like this. But just as you can see, we have been coming right from Adeniji, just like this.
Traffic management officers are also facing challenges controlling vehicular movement.
Honestly speaking, the only thing that can enter that ramp conveniently and out without having any conflict is 2 lanes. And that's why we had to spread ourselves using the traffic cone to also de-alienate the lanes so that they will know that, oh, it's only 2 lanes that can actually take you here and take you off.
It is obvious that we need more traffic signs, and we need traffic signs that will speak more to motorists from a further range, so that they begin to make up their mind and begin to plan their journey, so that they don't just come on the bridge and they find out that they are restricted in what they want to do.
On the other side, motorists heading towards the island from Oboroshoki are diverted through Adekunle intersection to link Ebutemeta Ido to Kata Bridge. Like every other motorist, getting to this point was not easy for the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. The governor receives briefs from heads of traffic management agencies before addressing journalists.
What we've seen as tailback is over the weekend, there's always a lot of movement on Third Mainland Bridge, on both sides. Right? On both sides, heavy movement on Third Mainland Bridge on both sides for various reasons, so that's why you see the tailback. So the communication there is patience. Right? That is really what we need to tell our people, is patient. Men are on ground to correct them, to help them out. It's just that 10, 20 minutes patience that you need before you can wrap up and you can come back to your lane.
Meanwhile, the repair of worn-out joints on the closed portion of the bridge is yet to commence, as materials are still being deployed to site. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, the scheduled maintenance is expected to commence fully from Monday, the 27th of July.
The Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, is advocating the need for legal reforms on asset declaration in Nigeria in order to ensure accountability and transparency amongst public office holders. In a report presented via a teleconference in the nation's capital, Abuja, SERAP maintains asset declaration should be made compulsory for public officers. There is no coordinated plan by the federal government in terms of implementing a policy to follow through on its anti-corruption fight. And this is according to Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Ade Adedeji, who is asking the executive to carry along other arms of government and relevant institutions in the crusade. He made this remark in an interview with our judiciary correspondent, Shola Shoyele.
My opinion, and this is very personal, is that no single tree can make a forest, and to that extent, in fighting corruption, in this country, particularly because this is something that has gone deep into the fabrics of the society. It is imperative that the judiciary should be directly involved, the legislative arm of the government should be involved, and the press should be involved. And to involve all these other areas, it is necessary that they should be sensitized and they should be carried along. I think the government, that is the present administration, no doubt about it, they had good intention, but they put the wrong foot forward. How did they do that? They did that when they thought that, yes, they could do it alone. There's no way anybody could fight this kind of battle alone. Unfortunately, we have to figure out how to start all over again. But definitely it is a battle that we have to fight.
The president has asked Nigerians living in diaspora not to abandon the country but remain active amid post-COVID-19 economic recovery efforts. President Muhammadu Buhari made the comments at the 2020 National Diaspora Day celebration, which was held virtually and organized by the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NITCOM. He acknowledged the huge contributions of Nigerians abroad to the economy, especially through annual remittances of $25 billion.
Let me, at this juncture, commend the enormous contribution of the Nigerians in diaspora to the socio-economic development of Nigeria. In terms of diaspora home remittances, Nigeria is rated as the #1 in sub-Saharan Africa, and this is still growing, especially with the advocacy and mobilization programs of the newly established Nigerians in Diaspora Commission. Nigerians in diaspora are also known to be engaged in skill transfer in ICT and industry. They are also active in our universities as lecturers and in carrying out medical missions. It is therefore my sincere hope that even with the depressed economy under stress in the year 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Nigerians in the diaspora would rise up to the occasion of not abandoning their country of origin, Nigeria, but to be active in our post-COVID-19 economic recovery efforts.
Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari. When the News at 10 returns, federal government rejects proposed increase in license fees for courier services by the Nigerian Postal Service. That's on Business News. Join us again. More Nigerians stranded in the United States are to be evacuated to the country on August the 7th. A notice put out by the Consulate General of Nigeria in New York explains that the evacuation, which has been approved by the federal government, is the sixth to be undertaken from the U.S. since the outbreak of COVID-19. The flight is expected to depart New Jersey via Ethiopian Airlines and will first land at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, on August the 8th. Before proceeding to the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos. According to the notice, all prospective evacuees are to present evidence of negative COVID-19 test results not older than 14 days and not less than 5 days on the date of departure. In Zamfara State, the government has flagged off the distribution of relief materials to vulnerable households and those affected by banditry across the state. The wife of the governor, Mrs. Aisha Matawale, who was present at the sharing of the item, explains that the gesture is significant at this time because it's the holy month of Ramadan, when Muslims are observing their 30-day fast. The distribution is targeted at widows, orphans, the elderly, and other less privileged persons. in the state.
Our own is to ensure all vulnerable people are getting in touch with the palliative, sort of whatever they come from, or they are religious, or their political parties and whatever. It was distributed based on the local government, because the local government have the people from the grassroots level. And we have some people that are vulnerable, such as disabled, private school teachers, women groups, and those people that are living in a poor condition. Any person who used to buy an Indomie on his own, he's not the target to have this palliative. Like me, I'm not in target. All those people here on my team, they are not on target, they are not vulnerable. If you have $100 to buy Indomie, it is not you for you to have this palliative. But those people that you can see, disabled, the poor people, the private school, during the pandemic, they closed all the school, are shut down, no salaries to them, no things to them, and they are 100% depend on the teaching on the private for them to have gained, to have for standard living. They are also included involved in this palliative distribution.
The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors is threatening to resume the industrial action it suspended recently following the intervention of the Nigerian Governors Forum and other government bodies. This is the outcome of a meeting of the association's leaders in Abuja today, which is called to review the suspended nationwide strike. The doctors are not pleased that most of the demands that led to the declaration of the strike 4 weeks ago have not yet been met. The NARD president says they are giving the federal government another 3 weeks to address their demands, failing which they will resume the suspended action.
The National Executive Council observed the non-payment of arrears of consequential adjustment of new minimum wage to her members. It's worthy of note that this consequential adjustment has been paid to every single federal civil servant in the country except this group of doctors. The National Executive Council also noted that the COVID hazard allowance payment was commenced and subsequently abandoned. Abruptly, immediately, the NARD strike was suspended. The National Executive Council noted with dismay the non-payment of salary shortfall for 2014, 2015, and 2016, despite promises by several stakeholders to intervene, which led to the suspension of the strike 4 weeks ago. Finally, the National Executive Council, as you are aware, suspended the strike 4 weeks ago with the view that all these demands will be addressed, which unfortunately has remained unattended to. The National Executive Council has also this time again resolved to extend this same suspension by another 3 weeks, failure of which we will have no choice than to resume the suspended strike on the 17th of August 2020. That's at the expiration of the 3 weeks extension.
Let's return to Kaduna State, where police authorities dispersed members of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, IMN, today as they gathered in Zaria to commemorate the 6th anniversary of the alleged killing of some of their members by the Nigerian army on July the 25th, 2014. Their spokesperson, Mr. Ibrahim Musa, told our correspondent that the commemoration was a peaceful annual event usually observed with members gathering to offer prayers for the repose of the souls of their department members. He explains that shortly after they commenced the program at the cemetery in Zaria, armed policemen stormed the venue and started shooting tear gas into the air to disperse them. Mr. Musa asked the police authorities to save their bullets for armed bandits and terrorists who are killing innocent and defenseless civilians. In its response, the State Police Command said the group remains outlawed and security operatives reserve the right to disperse them. A 40-foot container laden with drugs has been intercepted by the police in Apapa area of Lagos. The suspects revealed that the container was cleared at one of the terminals at the Apapa port. The Lagos State Commissioner of Police, Hakeem Odumusu, explains that investigations are on to unravel those behind the illegal importation.
Another sting operation carried out by the Apapa Area Command of the police in Lagos. The operation was launched following intelligence reports on the contents of this 40-foot container. As suspected, these cartons reveal banned drugs, among the lot, codeine and tramadol, concealed within hard brushes.
We discovered that it was made up of 997 cartons of drugs. By the time we now started going out, we realized that it was a concealed one. They used a different item entirely to put it. So those two now saw the codeine and tramadol. More than so the content of the container. And all this, we know that they are all banned, so none of those come to the country.
These two men found with the consignment are suspected to be behind the importation. They tell their story.
I purchased it in India. Some of them are free, some of them are contraband.
They're just offloading people. So saw some medicine there. Even though before I saw the medicine, I was arrested by them. So I don't know that medicine is inside.
It's a case for the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, which the police have already contacted to take over investigations. But there's still a lot more about this case involving the police, as it begins a different aspect of the investigations, this time collaborating with the Nigerian Customs Service to get more details on how the container was released from the ports without a thorough check.
The Minister of Transportation, Mr. Chibike Amechi, says the Abuja-Kaduna train service will resume operations on July the 29th. At a test run on the Abuja-Kaduna rail line today, he hints that passengers in economy class will now pay 3,000 naira for trips between Abuja and Kaduna, while the executive class will pay 6,000 naira. However, the Transport Minister says the federal government's approval of the new fares is not aimed at making profit, but to keep rail services active. The rail services were suspended 3 months ago by the government in a bid to control the spread of the coronavirus in the country. Now let's find out what's happening in the world of business. Teniola is standing by with the details.
Thanks, Melinda. Welcome to Business News. The federal government has rejected the proposed increment of license fee for carrier services by the Nigerian Postal Service. In a tweet today, the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Mr. Issa Pantami, says the increase was not part of the regulation he approved for the agency on Friday, July the 24th. The minister adds that he has contacted NIPOST Chairman and Postmaster General to put the implementation on hold and send a report to the ministry by Monday, July the 27th. The proposed increase in carrier fee, earlier announced by NIPOST, has generated huge public outrage after it directed companies which provide international carrier services to pay 20 million naira for a new license and 8 million naira yearly for renewal, while domestic carrier services providers were expected to pay 10 million naira for license and 4 million naira annually for renewal. The Federal Inland Revenue Service says the 6% stamp duty charge on tenancy previously announced will only apply to tenancy and lease agreements that are above 21 years. At a webinar, the chairman of the FIRS, Mr. Mohammed Nami, explains that stamp duty charges on tenancy and lease agreements would be made in series. The head of the tax agency further mentions that the country can no longer rely solely on crude revenue to fund the budget, hence the need for citizens to embrace taxation as the new normal of national fiscal policy. Now, the International Monetary Fund's net operational income, which mainly comprises income from lending and investments, remains strong at $1.9 billion this year. According to its review of income position for full year 2020 to 2022, the Washington-based fund notes that operating income for next year and 2022 is expected to remain strong, with projections pointing to a similar annual net income of $1.9 billion and $2.4 billion accordingly. However, these projections are subject to a high degree of uncertainty related to the scale of new lending associated with the COVID-19 economic fallout, as well as the timing and amounts of disbursements under approved agreements, including in the projections. The local equities market ended the fourth trading week of July in the green, despite recording some profit-taking activities in the 3 out of 5 trading sessions. The market's main index, as well as the equity capitalization, rose by 0.58% to close the week at 24,427.73 at 12.743 trillion naira accordingly, following investor interest in some key banking and industrial goods sector in the market. 28 equities recorded increases on their price value, led by 18.11% gain on Fidzen Healthcare share. Prestige Assurance led 24 other losers with 14.81% loss, while 110 equities were unchanged in price within the week. Meanwhile, total volume of shares traded was higher by more than 30% compared to last week's figure, as 1.35 billion shares changed hands for 14.43 billion naira in over 16,700 deals, while the trio of GT Bank, UACN and UBA were the 3 highest contributor to overall volume of transactions for the week. And that's business news tonight. It's back to you, Melinda.
Many thanks, Kenny. Still ahead on the news at 10, Barcelona legend Hernandez tests positive for COVID-19. That's on sports news. Plus, more stories on COVID-19 global update. Stay with us. A 2-story building under construction in the nation's capital, Abuja, has collapsed, trapping 10 persons inside. The incident occurred at the Galadima area of the Federal Capital Territory at about 10:40 a.m., and the building suffered a total collapse, leaving some of its occupants, who were workers at the site, injured. Officials of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, FCT Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, Fire Service and the Nigerian police responded to the distress call and rescued the workers. For what's happening in the world of sports, here's Ayotunde Balogun.
Many thanks, Melinda. We're starting off with football. Nigerian international Victor Moses is set to leave Inter Milan despite having an option to stay following the arrival of Moroccan Achraf Hakimi from Real Madrid. Moses has been plagued by fitness problems and is expected to be sent back to his parent club Chelsea at the end of the season. But reports have emerged that Serie A rivals AS Roma are looking at him as a reinforcement for their right flank, with between $6 million and $7 million on offer. I'm Ayotunde Balogun, and that's a wrap in sports news.
Many thanks, Ayo. Somalia's parliament has removed Prime Minister Hassan Ali Khair by a vote of no confidence. Legislators voted 170 to 8 to remove him and asked the president to appoint a new prime minister. The Speaker of the House says Mr. Khair, who has led the country since 2017, failed to establish national security forces to tighten security for the federal and state governments. In a statement, President Mohammed Abdullahi accepted the decision of the lawmakers, citing the need to preserve the unity of the various arms of government. Spain is taking new measures to cut a spike in coronavirus cases amid fears of a more widespread second wave. Catalonia has closed its nightlife for 2 weeks, but cities outside the northeastern region are also seeing a surge. Several European countries have reacted by imposing quarantine measures and travel warnings. Here's more on our COVID-19 global update.
A spike in coronavirus cases in Spain's Catalonia region has prompted fears of a second wave of infections in the country. As a result, the UK says anyone returning from Spain must self-isolate for 14 days. Norway has similar rules, and France has issued a travel warning. In England, indoor gyms, swimming pools and other indoor sports facilities have seen a cautious return of customers as they reopen their doors for the first time since March. Gyms must follow strict hygiene and social distancing measures, such as limiting the number of people using the facility and spacing out equipment. Infections are continuing to surge in India, where almost 100,000 new confirmed cases of the virus have been recorded in just 2 days. There have now been more than 1.3 million confirmed cases of the coronavirus in the country, the third highest number of infections in the world. And finally, Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro ventured out of his official residence to greet supporters, just hours after he announced that he had tested negative for the coronavirus, more than 2 weeks after contracting the virus. In a photo posted on social media, Bolsonaro appeared with a box of hydroxychloroquine, an anti-malarial drug he credited for his recovery, despite a lack of scientific evidence about its effectiveness. In the past, the Brazilian leader has played down the risk of the virus, calling it a little flu. Brazil is the second worst affected country in the world, with more than 2.3 million confirmed coronavirus cases and over 85,000 deaths.
In the United States, a Singaporean man has pleaded guilty to working as an agent of China. U.S. officials say Mr. Junwei Yo was charged with using his political consultancy in America as a front to collect information for Chinese intelligence. The U.S. also says a Chinese researcher accused of hiding her ties to China's military has also been detained. China earlier ordered the closure of the U.S. consulate in Chengdu. The move to shut down the diplomatic mission in the southwestern city was in response to the U.S. closing China's consulate in Houston. And the main news again. The People's Democratic Party today formally kicked off its governorship campaign ahead of the September 19th poll in Edo State. At the event, the party's candidate, Governor Godwin Obaseki, vowed to take governance to a new level in the state. Also today, there was gridlock on some routes in Lagos on day one of the third Mainland Bridge partial closure, just as Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu appealed to motorists to be patient as the repair work on the bridge progresses. And Spain took new measures today to curb a spike in coronavirus cases amid fears of widespread second wave of the virus. That's the news at 10 to 9. I'm Melinda Akinlami. On behalf of the team, good night.